Xenosystems Fragments. The Problem of Democracy. Nickland. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Recent discussions, on Twitter, primarily, have convinced me of the need for a neo-cameralism for dummies post, providing a succinct introduction to this genre of political theory. The importance of this is obvious if neo-cameralism is conceived as the central and defining pillar of neo-reaction. In preparation for this task, however, it is necessary to revisit the socio-historical diagnosis from which neo-cameralism emerged, in the work, of course, of Mencius Moldbug. That requires a brief prolegomena addressing the NRX critique of democracy, focusing initially on its negative aspect. Neo-cameralism is introduced as a proposed solution to a problem. First, the problem. Government is complicated. If this thesis seems implausible to you, it is probable that you will have great difficulties with everything to follow. It would take another, and quite different, post to address objections to this entire topic of discussion, which take the approximate form: government is easy, you just find the best man and put him in charge. All social problems are easy if you can just do the right thing. Infantile recommendations will always be with us. There are two general lines of democratic apologetics. The first, and politically by far the strongest, is essentially religious. It too is best addressed by a post of its own, themed by Moldbug's ultra-Calvinist hypothesis. For our purposes here, we need only suggest that it is quite satisfactorily represented by Jacques Rousseau, and that its fundamental principle is popular sovereignty. From the NRX perspective, it is merely depraved. Only civilizational calamities can come from it. The second line of apology is far more serious, theoretically engaging, and politically irrelevant. It understands democracy as a mechanism, tasked with the solemn responsibility of controlling government. Any effective control mechanism works by governing behavior under the influence of feedback from actual performance. In biology, this is achieved by natural selection upon phenotypes. In science, it is achieved by the experimental testing of theory, supported by a culture of open criticism. In capitalist economics, it is achieved by market evaluation of products and services, providing feedback on business performance. According to systems theoretical defenses of democracy, it works by sensitizing government to feedback from voters, who act as conductors of information from actual administrative performance. This is the sophisticated liberal theory of democracy. It explains why science, markets, and democracy are often grouped together within liberal ideologies. Bio-Darwinism, naturally, is more safely neglected. How could this beautiful political design possibly go wrong? Merely by asking this question, you have set out on the neo-reactionary path. Moldbug's answer, and ours, begins by agreeing with the sophisticated liberal theory in its most abstract outlines. Democracy is indeed a system for the functional tuning of government, operating through electoral feedback, and predictably enhancing its specialized competence, as all reiterating experimentation selection mechanisms do. Democratic political machines become increasingly good at what they do. The problem, however, is that their functional specialism is not at all identical with administrative capability. Rather, as they progressively learn, the feedback they receive trains them in mastery of public opinion. The long circuit, assumed by liberal political theory, models the electorate as a reality sensor, aggregating information about the effects of government policy, and relaying it back through opinion polls and elections, to select substitutable political regimes, organized as parties, that have demonstrated their effectiveness at optimizing social outcomes. The short circuit, proposed by Moldbug, models the electorate as an object of indoctrination, subjected to an ever more advanced process of opinion formation through a self-organized, message-disciplined educational and media apparatus. The political party best adapted to this apparatus, called the inner party by Moldbug, will dominate the democratic process. The outer party serves the formal cybernetic function demanded by liberal theory, by providing an electoral option, but it will achieve practical success only by accommodating itself to the apparatus of opinion formation, perhaps modifying its recommendations in minor, and ultimately inconsequential ways. It is the system of opinion formation, the cathedral, that represents true sovereign authority within the democratic system, since it is the reality principle which decides success or failure. The monotonic trend to short-circuit dominance is the degenerative process inherent to democracy. If you want the government to listen to you, then you have to expect it to tell you what to say. That is the principal lesson of progressive political history. The assertion of popular voice has led, by retrospective inevitability, to a specialized, supercompetent political devotion to ventriloquism. The disaster, therefore, is twofold. On the one hand, government competence in its primary responsibility, efficient governance, is systematically eroded, to be replaced by a facility at propaganda, in a process akin to the accumulation of junk DNA. As government is swallowed by messaging, residual administrative competences are maintained by a bureaucratic machine or permanent government, largely insulated from the increasingly senseless signals of democratic opinion, but still assimilated to the opinion formation establishment by direct, extra-democratic, processes of cultivation. Lacking feedback from anything but its own experiments in mind control, quality of government collapses. Secondly, and even more calamitously from certain perspectives, culture is devastated by the politicization of opinion. Under a political dispensation in which opinion has no formal power, it is broadly free to develop in accordance with its own experiences, concerns, and curiosities. In a significant minority of cases, cultural achievements of enduring value result. Only in cases of extreme, provocative dissent will the government have any interest in what the people think. Once politicized, however, correct public opinion is a matter of central, indeed all-consuming, government attention. Ideologically installed as the foundation of political legitimacy, it becomes the supreme object of political manipulation. Any thought is now dissent if it is not positively aligned with society's leading political direction. To think outside the cathedral is to attack the government. Culture is destroyed. To be a neo-reactionary is to see these twin eventualities starkly manifested in contemporary Western civilization. What democracy has not yet ruined, it is ruining. It is essentially destructive of both government and culture. It cannot indefinitely last. The subsequent question, what could conceivably provide a solution? That is where neo-cameralism is introduced.